All right, and we are back for episode 62 of Digital Divination. Hey, great to have you back again, Jason.
Always.
I heard you were playing some Adventurous here just before this. How did that go?
Yeah, we recorded a couple more episodes of Adventurous with Scott Young as our new GM, and he's taking
Nice.
us to all sorts of spooky places in Ustalav. And we're having some good spooky adventures. And my dwarven fighter has been natural. He rolled like 4 natural 20s against me in one
Wow.
fight. I'm just like, why do I even bother having armor and a shield? I just need hit points. It didn't take me down though. It didn't take me down. It got me down to 1 hit point with all that. I am thankful for Pathfinder 2's armor specialization stuff because I have plate armor and it blocks a tiny bit of damage, certain type of damage, slashing damage, and he clawed at me with a demon or something, and that blocked 3 points of it, and that was enough to keep me alive, basically.
Yeah. What level are you guys right now?
We're level 6.
Okay.
6, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have a level 5 fighter, and I didn't know. I'm pretty new to Pathfinder. I didn't know there was an armor specialization. That must come up after level 5 then.
It might be partially because I'm taking like the Sentinel archetype too, something like that.
Got it. The type of
It's somewhere in there. Yeah, it's something like that.
All right. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So I hear you might have a little bit of news for us.
Sure. Well, let me just start off by saying, John, that this show is not cursed. I promise you that.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with you or the show. But by the time this comes out, I will have moved on from Paizo to another opportunity that I'm very excited about. But I will still be here talking about Starfinder for as long as you'll have me talking about Starfinder, because I am still, I'm excited to know what's going to happen next and what's going to happen after all the stuff that I already know about happening in the next year or so. Right. What are they going to do after that? I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to hear, and I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Wow. And where are you off to then?
Well, I think I can say because it'll be like,
okay.
I'm pretty sure it'll be like, but this comes out and I'll be the next day. I'll be at least saying it on social media. So I think a day in advance is fine for all of our No Direction listeners, because I'm not actually going too far from the No Direction family in a lot of ways. I am going over to Renegade Game Studios to work on the G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers games.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned cursed, and kind of when you let me know about this thing, there's a quote, and I was looking up. There's different versions of it, and one of the versions goes, well, first of all, let me preface this why you mentioned this was cursed, and that, I had this fill-in co-host named Jason Tondro, and then he left.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had my regular co-host, Ron Lundeen, then he left Paizo. Yeah. And now I get his replacement, Jason Keeley, and then he leaves Paizo. And so this quote that I actually came across, it's not the one I was looking for, is from Ian Fleming in one of his books, the Goldfinger book, right? It says, 1 time is chance, 2 times is a coincidence, 3 times, and most people think it's a trend or something. That's the other quote. But his quote is 3 times is enemy action.
I've heard that quote.
Right. And it has to do with, kind of when something, spy is trying to do something, and, that's kind of weird, So I'll say, I'm not trying to sabotage Paizo. So it's not me.
Yeah. It's not you. It has nothing to do with you, of course. I think this is literally a coincidence that.
Yes. Okay.
I guess. Yeah.
It's interesting. I interviewed Leo Glass last week, and he's going to be on my presenting podcast next week when I publish it. One of the things that he mentioned is how well everybody at Paizo gets trained because of all the things that you do. So even though he specialized in editing, you're specialized in development, there's still so many different aspects of the game design that you all are involved in, that Paizo becomes like one of the best training grounds in the industry for people. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, and the fact that ends up leading to so many people moving to different places.
It comes down to, I mean, it's a lot of ways a trial by fire, right?
Mhm.
There's some, training and all, but then there's just the pace. Paizo has one of the
Right.
largest, I would say, the most frequent publications than any geek company that I have ever sort of dealt with or looked at. More so than it used to be. Even I think even more. I would say, although page counts difficult to
Right.
compare them, but putting out player companions and the old campaign setting line like on a monthly basis, plus the hardcovers and adventure pass on a monthly
Right.
basis, was a lot of pages. And then as coming from the editing department, which Leo is now the manager of. But when I started there too, it's like just like this is just a lot of text that everyone needs to look at. At least the
Mhm.
editors need to look at all of it. And all the different developers are always working on their own lines, so it does become a sort of you got to get it done, or the book doesn't ship on time, and that sort of ends up possibly hurting profits or whatever. And you learn to kind of keep your head down, but just sort of focus on the thing at hand, and it's because always the next thing that you would have to be dealing with. Because there's always like you're working on a project, a development project, and you're copy fitting the last thing, and you're
Right.
planning the next thing. So you're really in a lot of ways working on
Mhm.
three things at once, no matter what it is, if it's a hardcover or even an adventure. So yeah, it does train you a lot of ways that make you sometimes desirable to other companies who have a sort of a more relaxed pace, or
Yeah.
they're newer and they kind of need that experience.
Mhm. Mhm. Do you have a sense for what your workload's gonna be like at Renegade?
Not exactly. No, it's still kind of it's a little bit frightening in a lot of ways, that I don't quite know what I'm going to be up to. Because by this point, like the Power Rangers and the GI Joe core rule books are out. Transformers book is coming soon, but that's got to be at the printers at this point. So it's been
Right.
worked on, right? It has to have been. And so I think I'm going to be working on like supplements and adventures and that kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm. And
Smaller, maybe
it's
smaller books. Yeah.
and you'll be a developer there as well, or
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
title?
That's the
Okay.
sort of my title. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you
RPG
know of any
developer.
other Paizo folks that have gone there as well? Or
Actually, yes. As I know this, as far as I know, I should say.
yeah.
But one of the people that I chatted with before, during the sort of interview process, was Sarah Robinson.
Hmm.
And I
Mhm.
don't know if those of you out here, know that Sarah was the Paizo's like creative art director for a
Mhm.
long time,
Right,
responsible for a
right.
lot of the ways, a lot of the stuff, the books, how the books look.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she left a couple months ago, like over the summer. It's still summer, but like maybe late spring or something like that. And It was before PaizoCon, and probably even like a month or two before PaizoCon, and we didn't really know where she was going.
Right,
And I hadn't known until I had gotten a sort of email. It's like, here's the people you'll be interviewing with. I was like, oh, I recognize that name. Oh, that's where
right,
she went. Oh, okay, fun.
right. Very cool, very cool. Well, your, so your last official day, so we're recording on Sunday, and your last official
Yeah.
day is tomorrow, is
Is
that right?
is tomorrow, that's right, yeah. We kind of already had a farewell going together
Yeah.
because, I'm not the only one, it's, has left or is leaving. Patrick Rainey, also Pathfinder developer, for the Adventure Pass, his
Mm.
he's left as well. I don't
I
know
had
where he's
nothing to
going off
do with
to.
him, by the way. I've
No, yeah,
never interviewed
exactly.
him. Just
You
gonna
had
say.
nothing to do with him. So, he's that's actually, it's funny because this is the second time that he's parted
Right,
ways with Paizo,
right, right,
end
right.
of his career.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, um, so given that, you're kinda moving on, have you reflected at all about the time? How long have you been at Paizo and kind of, what
yeah.
that's been like?
It's been about 7.5 years.
Wow.
I got the actually like my first week was about a week after my 40th birthday. So it was got the job before that, but so it was
Right.
a big milestone for me in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
getting a sort of a permanent job in the role playing game industry, which is I hadn't had before, and doing it sort of all kind of technically before my 40th. And at the time, it was. I mean, I'm still a big Paizo fan, so I was a pretty big Paizo fan before that, and just sort of getting to work with everybody there was exciting and
Mhm.
and eye opening in a lot of ways. And it's definitely been like a roller coaster, right? There's been highs and there's been lows. That's life. That's a job. And I am very proud of all the work that I've done there, and I'm very appreciative of everything that Paizo has sort of done to sort of for me in a lot of ways, and sort of helping me with, because once I started working there, it would then became my goal to be like, well, now I have to start thinking about getting an book cover credit because I really wanted that. Let me write an adventure. I love the adventure
Right.
pass. I gotta write one eventually, so I better
Right.
continuously read them. And I was editing them, you right? And I wanted to get at the time with the pies sorry, the adventure paths still had fiction in them,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
I am probably unsurprisingly to no one what's the word I'm looking for? A frustrated fiction writer. Not that I've actually like really sat down and written anything, but I have like started
Mhm.
like a lot of people have started books or short stories and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, if I can get a short story in, that's great. That'd be
Mhm.
great. And I managed to get all that done kind of well right around the time when I started working for Starfinder was when I started to get
Mhm.
the cover credits. I'd gotten a story in the Strange Aeons adventure path, and I was still an editor technically at that point. But right after that ended, was when Starfinder started happening, and I moved over to that. But and then at the time, then I wrote two adventure paths in like 4 months or something like that. One for Starfinder and
Right.
one for Pathfinder, and then a second one for Pathfinder almost directly after that. Um, and that was great time. And I'd been freelancing, writing monsters here and articles, there for a bit before that. But uh, those were my big goals, and I hit those goals.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I kept going doing Starfinder stuff, and that was never really like a goal to be like I better create help create a whole new game was never really part of it.
Right.
But it was another and it's just another milestone, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, that's accomplishing a lot, and you're part of, like, the original crew then, right, for in the Star
Pretty
Chamber?
much, pretty
Yeah.
much. Not I wouldn't say I was like one generation 1.5, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Like Amanda and I got kind of moved in after sort of a lot of the groundwork had been
Right.
set.
Right. Right.
But I did some the design and development work on the core rulebook, so
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
pretty much on the ground floor.
Right. Right. Do you know how they're going to backfill for you and for Patrick now? I know there was some discussion when Jake and Ron left what they were gonna do. Has that changed everything now? Or
I
they have some
guess.
developer, looking for developer ads up online. I'm just kinda
Yeah.
wondering how that's do you know what their plan is?
It's gonna be a rough couple months, I'm gonna
Mhm.
say. I really hope that they have more of a plan to slow down, maybe
Right.
postpone a couple things. I would, before they can get. But at the moment, it's gonna kind of fall a lot on James Jacobs.
Mm.
It's gonna,
Mhm.
fall a lot on the shoulders of like Adam Daigle a lot as well.
Mm.
I'm in was in a okay position in that I finished development on the last adventure for Drift Hackers like last week,
Mhm.
and so I
Right.
kind of handed that off, and in a way, that's a kind of a clean break for me.
Right. Right.
Um, Someone's going to have to answer questions from the editing team or whatever, and copy fit the book later on. But those are it's doable. I've done it for multiple times
Right.
at this point for when other people left, and so I obviously wish everyone the best of luck on that. But I think for me, my replacing me is going to be my managerial duties and
Right.
whatever might be next. And I think they think there is a plan for that.
Right. Right. And they do have other Starfinder developers there, though
Oh, sure, yeah,
yeah, John and Joe have been there for a while, and though Jenny and Jessica are a little bit newer.
Yeah.
I've heard of other people trying to apply for the position, but nobody with a name starting with a J, so I know they don't have any luck.
They're gonna be,
So,
well, there's the sort of wild card of Thurston Hillman,
yeah,
who was a
yeah,
Starfinder,
yeah,
scenario developer when at the
right,
beginning of Starfinder Society. So,
right.
he counts, and he might be, yeah, yeah. We'll
Yeah,
see.
and he may
We'll see what he is up to. Yeah,
right, he could fill in too as well, for
yeah,
that
yeah.
matter.
He's got the chops for that.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. What do you make of, so many people leaving in a relatively short time? What's your sense
Yeah,
on that?
I don't know. I feel like there's, I think I might actually sort of attribute it a bit to, in a lot of ways, the pandemic.
Hmm,
There's a lot of working from home, and
right,
a little bit of, uh, for me, I should say, at any rate, it is a little bit of an examination of my life. Like, oh,
mhm,
well, okay, well, what I want to do and whatever, and what am I a little unhappy at a place? Should I stick it out? Well, there's possibility for me to possibly get happy or not, and
mhm,
then trying some new opportunities, possibly even, you know, moving out of the area,
right,
if
right,
that's something in my future. So that's it. I think some people, I mean, there's, to be utterly frank, there are reasons to be frustrated working at Paizo.
mhm,
Just because, because it's is a, again, it's still a pretty publishing's mindset schedule. It's pretty,
right,
constant
right,
schedule, and that can burn someone out.
right,
But with the addition of the union, I think things are getting better over there. They
right,
get,
right,
there's some, other, some of the other changes
mhm,
in the upper management. I think things have the uh, definite possibility of continuing to get better, and I feel like they had been, but also sometimes you just, the majority of the sort of departures are because Wizards is ramping up to
right,
doing a new edition, basically. So
right,
when they put
right,
out, and like you said, Paizo's a pretty good farm team.
right,
And we have other people besides Ron and Jake could have moved over there.
right,
Our former managing editor Judy, Liz Liddell, who was actually on the design team briefly
mhm,
after being an editor, um, going over to now being an editor at Magic. And there's actually other people. Uh, at least one customer service person that I know of has also
hmm,
moved over to
hmm,
Wizards to be an editor. So.
wow,
It's not
wow,
just because they're just looking for people. For some other former Paizo employees too. I don't know if
mhm,
you are familiar with Adrian Ing.
mhm, yeah, I
He
heard
did a
about
lot of
that,
that,
yeah,
and he left a while back, and then was at Pokemon for a while, but now
hmm.
he's a Wizards editor.
Yeah, definitely a lot of opportunities, I think,
Yeah.
and you mentioned the pandemic, and one of the things that and I know with Renegade, you have this option. There are a lot of places that are allowing you to work remote, and that's something that
Yeah.
Paizo hasn't been as keen on, though I notice they're giving more options if you live in Indiana, Washington, and Oregon. Now they have
Hmm.
you can work remotely if you want from those states.
Sure.
Is
Yeah. It's about sort of like setting up business licenses and whatnot,
yeah,
and
yeah,
because Paizo does such sponsorship with Gen Con, I think
mhm,
they had
right,
that license actually
right,
technically, because so they could sell books at Gen Con. They had to have that license there.
right, right,
We've actually had someone, at least one person, working from remotely from Indiana for the entirety of the pandemic, or maybe even before.
mm,
But
mhm,
yeah, so yeah, Paizo is sort of working towards opening up more areas besides those three, so people can live other places. Because yeah, like you said, like it's become pretty clear that this is a job that can be done remotely.
right,
And you miss out on some things. You do miss out on some camaraderie in the
mhm,
office. You miss
mhm.
out a little bit on the ability to just kind of like turn to someone and be like, "Is this silly or is this cool? Does this work? What do you? I don't know what to do. Have you heard of this planet? This is is that anywhere in any of our books? obviously you can do that over chat, but chat, like a chat program, can get a little harrowing, I would say, in terms of like,
Mm,
because you can go to walk over to someone's cubicle, notice that they're talking to somebody else, and go, "I'll come back in 5 minutes. Mine's not a person."
right,
But you don't know what another person is doing on the other side of a chat window. So you just ask the
right.
question as soon as you think of it. What do you think of this? And it can feel like all those chats need to be responded to immediately. I know sometimes I get distracted by that.
Mhm,
So I can understand why people don't like that kind of setup, but I think the goods far outweigh the bads.
mhm, mhm. Now, as far as the stuff that you've been working on for
Mhm.
Starfinder, so how far out is that time horizon? So I know like something I just turned over last month is due to come out late 2023. So
Yeah.
that's about all I know. I don't know how far, overall the horizons are, but I get a sense for the next 2 years, you're going to know a bunch about stuff that's coming out.
Until, like, beginning of 2024, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it kind of, I mean, obviously things can change, right? Because that is
Oh
a
yeah.
bit out. But also, um, I was sort of talking a little bit about, and I think a lot of people would agree with me that, we need to plan a little further out than that.
Mhm. Wow.
Even though, yeah, just so we can be ready and look, and then, obviously be able to pivot when things are like, "Oh, this was scheduled for 2026, but then, Wizards is
Oh,
doing
when
this thing that's remarkably similar. We
right,
should probably not do that." But no, we haven't started planning it. We haven't started writing the
right,
outlines for it yet, so we can.
right, right, right.
And
Yeah.
and the oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say that the further out you plan, the more time you can give to
Right.
developers and freelance authors and stuff like that to sort of work on things. But
Mhm,
that's, a minor case, I say. Just sort of having a sort of a better idea about what the future of Starfinder is, like in a roadmap. Now, I'm terrible at that kind of planning personally. I
okay.
just know that it would probably be, it's better that when it is done.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I'm a planner myself. I like
Mm,
to figure out what needs to be done, what order, and get all that sorted out, then try to get to it. That's kind of my but I'm also a last minute get it done person. So I'm good at the
yeah,
planning only because I can put in my window of this is when I absolutely need to do it to
sure,
get
yeah.
it done on time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But what I was going to ask you is, now that if you're going to Renegade, are they going to allow you to freelance?
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty they're less and I'll use the word draconian as a fun ironic word than
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast
Yeah.
is on that kind of thing. So,
Neat.
I'm going to
So we
be,
could see you doing a lot more adventure paths now since they're going to be
yeah.
short people.
I mean,
Uh, yeah.
there's there are a couple fewer people who can write them
Yeah.
out there, but I think it's also not bad to start training up some more other freelancers to be
Yeah.
good enough to write APs.
Hmm.
And I say good enough. It's less about sort of like how good of it are you, but it's just can you take on this massive, massive project and get it done on
Right.
time and be communicative about where you have problems and that sort of thing. So
Right.
I think with practice, I think I've always been ready to give people a chance to write adventure paths. When I was doing Starfinder, if they can turn over other smaller projects on time and seem to have good
Hmm.
ideas, I I'm happy to try people out, even though it's becomes a big project for them and becomes a big project for me to sort of
Right.
make sure that it's up to snuff.
Hmm.
So I tried to do that every AP, unless I was pressed for time. Be like, let's try out someone slightly new, at least one
Hmm.
person that's slightly new. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd heard that from other developers as well that they have their cadre of folks they bring in, but they always try to introduce somebody new in there. And I'm still waiting to be that new person. So
I
we'll have
think you
to.
should be. I mean, well, it's not going to be up to me anymore, unfortunately,
No,
John.
no, I know, I know, I
But
know.
you've been working, enough on Starfinder that I feel like people should you should be in the running if that's something you want to do. That's always a question. Like some
Yeah.
freelance authors, you don't know whether or not they want to take on a project that size, or even if they want to
Oh,
write an adventure.
I want to give it a go. The reason why I took on so many words for Joe on my last project is to kind
Mm.
of prove to myself and to anyone else that in 60 days I could do a 20,000 word turnover and have
Yeah.
it turn out okay. And even like I was telling Joe, I was having all kinds of vision issues and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
and I still was able to knock it out. And part of the thing, so I have like a smaller Pathfinder one that is due, and it's like, oh, I love Starfinder so much. It's so much easier for me to work on because I know a
Fair
lot
enough.
more about it. Pathfinder is
Yeah.
like a lot more research for me,
Yeah.
to make sure I got everything covered. But well, I hope I get to see you do more writing though.
I am at the very least going to be thinking about other little projects for my own, like
Yeah.
that was another thing, like over the past, well, it took me longer than I would like to have done it, but like, over the past year I put out my serial mascot game for free
Mhm.
just to do it because I was feeling the need to do something slightly different, creatively. That's the word. Slightly more different creatively than the stuff I was
Yeah.
doing for Starfinder and Pathfinder
Yeah.
freelance.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And you're still GMing right now
Oh
and
yeah.
hopefully playing some with Adventurous and others. So it's not like you're
I
getting out of the Paizo,
I'm not out of the role playing game. I'm not out of Paizo. I told people they're not gonna get rid of me that easily. I'm gonna be poking around, being like, hey, I'm still ready. I'm still available to do stuff, and
Mhm,
why not?
mhm.
And one hope is that because it was always pretty difficult to work on. Well, this is the thing, I would work on Starfinder all day, and then I would probably turn around and maybe do Pathfinder freelance for an adventure path, and doing that at basically like, oh, but it was always adventures. It's like, I'm going to sit down, write this,
Right,
develop this
right.
adventure for 6 to 7 to 8 hours a day. Turn around and be like, well, I got to clear 40 some thousand words in however many days it is, and I. Like you, I do like to set up a plan. Like if I write X number of words per
Right.
day on average, I get it done. I'll get it done on time, and that sort of gives me the relief that I can go, oh well, if I get on a tear and write a couple thousand words over the weekend, more than I was planning to do. Great, I'm ahead, and now I don't have
Mhm.
to. But those would always that average would always be bumping around because like again, game nights, right?
Right.
Work would be done, have a game night, and then like that's a lot. I'm not going to sit down and write. Well, sometimes I would if it was just like 500 words. I feel like I could clear 500 words without breaking a sweat.
Right.
Pretty easy these days. But that is a muscle that I had to work
Mhm.
because the first um, couple adventure paths were tricky.
Mhm.
And getting those words done and setting a consistent schedule to get them done. But yeah, I'm gonna be around.
Yeah. Yeah. And when do you actually start at
Technically
next place?
Friday,
Okay.
this
All right.
coming Friday. So I'll get a couple days off. Have a Friday where I'll meet some people.
Mhm.
I assume and get the lay of the land a little bit. Then have a nice weekend,
Mhm.
and then start in earnest the next week.
Mhm. And it's all virtual for them, remote
Yeah,
work?
it's all
Okay.
completely remote. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of Zoom meetings, I presume, or
I
do they
assume
have
you have.
yeah.
I don't know,
Oh,
John.
okay.
I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
sure. I'm not sure what they have yet.
Alright, well, we'll have to talk with you next time to see how your first week
Yes.
at work went
Yeah, yeah.
and,
It'll
get
be.
some kinda comparison and contrast type
Yeah,
of thing.
I'm
Yeah, no.
hoping that they give me some time to just kind of sit with the books and
Right.
maybe sit with the license stuff because this is the first time I will have ever worked on licensed properties,
Mm. Oh, yeah.
which
Didn't
is
even think about
interesting.
that, not
Yeah,
OGL. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or just
Wow.
not stuff I can't just make up as I go. I mean, that's the big benefit of Starfinder for me. Is like I
Yeah.
can make up a lot of stuff as I go along, and it's generally pretty fine.
Mhm.
I of course would do the research, make sure that something was mentioned. I would look it up and
Right.
see if it fits the canon as we have established it so far.
Mhm.
But also, I established a lot of that canon myself in
Right.
those early days, so I kind of know it. This is all just kind of fairly new stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Power Rangers and GI Joe and Transformers, of course, but
Yeah.
uh, there's some deep lore I'm sure that I don't know.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't know if we're going to need to get into that.
Well, if you're gonna write adventures, you might have to. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall
Yeah,
see.
it's funny when you mention that, I realize that's one of my biggest concerns when I'm doing Pathfinder writing is that there's all this first edition canon out there and lore that
Hmm.
you have to have in the back of your mind when you're working with that for second edition. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
just forget about it, Where Starfinder, as you're saying, there's stuff out there, but it's relatively concise and self-contained. You can find it. Oh, this is where
Hmm.
we talked about the Silent War. This is what happened. This is what precipitated. This is how it ended. All this kind of stuff. That's easy to find, right?
Yeah.
Versus like if you're looking at the history of all, Galorian and everything else, it's like, wow, that's a lot of stuff to have to work with. And
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully GI Joes and GI Joes has been around a long time. I'm thinking
Hmm.
Power Rangers and Transformers,
Rumors.
maybe not as much lore with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, like, did GI Joe? I mean, obviously the toy was been around a lot, but did it have any lore back then? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Until it got to the cartoon age
right.
of which Transformers and Power Rangers are all kind of from.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Yeah, maybe that's it.
yeah, I mean, it's clearly you know what seems to be that these are based on a lot. The
Well, you know what
artwork
you
and
need to do then next weekend is you need to be watching a lot of cartoons.
oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing that definitely. This coming week when I have some time
Yeah,
off, I'm gonna be watching cartoons and
yeah,
probably playing some video games.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, is there Power Rangers, GI Joe, and Transformer video games?
Oh, I wasn't gonna necessarily talking about those, but there
Oh,
are at
oh, okay.
least a
Some other video
couple.
games.
That's
Yeah,
fine though. But there are at least a couple Transformers video games.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think there are any GI Joe video games. That's interesting.
I don't
And
know.
there's got to be at least one Power Rangers video game that's sort of tickling the back of my brain. Some kind of probably beat 'em up or fighter, versus
Yeah, no,
fighting
I don't
game.
know. Yeah. Oh, like maybe an arcade game even. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, of those 3, GI Joe's the only one I really kinda grew up watching and stuff. I
mm,
never really paid much attention to Transformers. I think that came after for me, and Power Rangers was after for me, so it wasn't the one thing. What
yeah.
about you? Did you watch a
More
lot of those?
Transformers, more
Yeah,
Transformers than anything. Again, I get to at least right now stay in the realm of giant robots,
right.
um, which is going to be fun. So it's not yet too much of a departure from Starfinder.
Mhm.
Um, there was this and there was this. I don't know if I can't remember if it had if the line had a name, but Fantasy Fight Games in the sort of big heyday of D20 3.5 stuff put out these real slim, but maybe there were 64 to 80 some pages hacks for 3.5 that were really really genre focused.
Mm,
And I
mm,
bought them. I remember buying them in like a little slipcase, all 5 of them at once, and it was
mhm.
Grimm, which is kind of like fantasy fairy tale stuff. That ended you play children. That ended up getting a weird sort of its own release later, like years and years later on of its own system. There was Spellslinger, which is a Old
Alright, I remember
West
that.
magic one. You remember
Yeah.
that one? One whose name I can't remember that was very Tron. A game called Redline, which was like Mad Max vehicle
Oh,
combat
okay. Right,
stuff,
that makes sense, yeah.
and a game called Mechamorphosis,
Oh, I don't
which was
remember
a
that.
Transformers one, and
Yeah,
I ran a one shot of that
yeah.
back in the day. That I still have the I don't know if I still have the characters for it, but my a friend of mine at the time did the art.
Hmm.
So I sort of
Wow.
it was one shot where I sort of grabbed everyone's. Oh, what do you want to play? What kind of thing?
Yeah.
What kind of vehicle do you want to be? Right, whatever. And then I had my friend draw all the robots, and I still have those. And I'm definitely going to be like showing those off first thing. Look at this guy.
Yeah,
This one's a
yeah.
Palm Pilot. Remember Palm Pilots? But it is one of the little ones,
Yeah.
one of the pet tapes, but Palm Pilot size, and using his stylus as a battle staff, and then there's a motorcycle, of course, and my one friend, my one friend Rob Tremarco, who is does a lot of uh podcasts with Roll for Combat and stuff these days. um, always had to be like he often has to be the big gun. He likes to play that
Mm,
and Starfinder. He likes to play that in
right.
Pathfinder. The damage dealer is like, can I be a triple transformer? I want to be a tank and a jet and a robot. I'm like, okay, fine. I think the rules are in there for that, so let's go ahead and do that. So he had to have the biggest badass transformer he could make.
Mhm, mhm. So, given that, it's a relatively new game and relatively new
Mhm.
rule set, I'm guessing
Yeah,
in the essence system. What do they what do they ask you when they interview you? Kind of what's that development interview like?
it didn't. I think they understand that it's really recent game. They weren't
Mhm.
like, "How much do you know?" They weren't like
Yeah,
lobbing me rules questions, for instance, because
yeah,
I was unfamiliar with it. It was mostly just, I guess, to get a feel for who I am and what kind of stuff I like to do, and how other projects that I've worked on, and how that hey, I've ordered art before. I can work with artists. I've done
right.
a couple play tests here and there. We could do play test groups. Um, I take text that other people write and basically make it a little bit better.
Mhm,
I hope that's the
mhm,
plan at any rate, right?
yeah.
Um, the biggest question that threw me off during the interview was what's your favorite TV show and movie and video game? And I couldn't think of anything that I liked after as soon as that question was asked. And then 2 hours later I was like, oh man, I didn't say this, I didn't say this, I didn't say this.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously that was just a sort of get to know you question, but
Right, right,
so
right. No,
so so
that's
silly.
well, it's good. I was just kinda curious, I'm
Yeah.
kinda familiar with the because I talked to enough developers what the process
Mhm.
is for interviews at Paizo and a little bit with Wizards of the Coast, obviously there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was kind of curious about a brand new system there, and so they're kind of really trusting your past experience in that case.
Yeah. I mean, I've had
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
experience. I mean, not just the 7.5 years of Paizo editing, a
hmm
couple years before that, I was making my own stuff.
right, right.
And so, you know, I'm experienced. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
I'm getting. You can't see it here, but starting to get the gray temples pretty soon.
yeah, yeah. Well, when I saw you when I dropped off some gear, I didn't
Mhm.
recognize you because you look a lot grayer in person than you do on the camera.
Fair enough. I think I might have also had
Yeah.
a baseball cap on to sort of cover up
Yes,
a lot of
yes. All that kinda
the
I
forehead.
just noticed, like, the gray end, so
Yeah.
because when I look at you now, I'm thinking, "Man, I look all gray," and you don't look gray at all. But I saw
I
you, said, "Oh,
I'm
he
hiding a
doesn't
little
look."
bit under behind the
Yeah,
microphone. This part
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
didn't used to be so gray.
yeah.
I
Well,
am looking forward to gray temples. I want the Doctor Strange look.
yeah, I wish I could get a better Doctor Strange goatee. It's
Hmm.
pretty ratty, though. Um, I was gonna ask you, do you know how big your team's gonna be there at Renegade for developers? Or
Not entirely sure. I think like they put out the first couple of books with obviously a slightly smaller team, and they're realizing that they might need a couple extra people.
Mhm,
So I'm hoping that
mhm.
I'm coming into a team, not necessarily filling a hole that where everything's currently
Right.
sort of in process and on fire.
Mhm,
So fingers crossed.
mhm.
But
And do
again,
you know
it's just such a black box that I don't know. I
I
can't
know.
see
Yeah, so
into.
you don't even know until you start. We'll
I
have to
don't
ask
know.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I know at Wizards, it's like they have a completely kind of different system than Paizo in terms of
Yeah.
you know their production schedule, how many what their developers are actually working on, their use
Mhm.
of freelancers, all that stuff
Yeah.
is way different. So now I'm kind of curious about other places, like like Renegade as well.
I
We'll have
you
to,
know, all I know for sure is that they do use freelancers because that's our good friend Ryan Costello who has
yeah,
been
yeah,
writing GI Joe stuff for them for a little bit now. So that's about all I know. And I know I'll be working at some point with Sarah some more for
yeah,
layout purposes, and that's great.
and that's it. That's it. And you'll probably stay where you're at for now, or you
Yeah, we
intend to
know our
move?
lease isn't up for a little bit, so
Yeah,
we'll have to ask these questions.
yeah, yeah.
Um, we've got opportunities. We have both of us have, unfortunately, my wife and I have families on opposite coasts,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's going to be a little bit not like that big of a deal. But and for me, I would say my East Coast family, I'm a lot. I'm gonna get real personal here. Be a lot less closer to than
Yeah,
Paula's family is, but also a lot of our old friends are still back east, and who we still play games with, and so we
right.
could, if we were to move back over there, we would, be able to see them more often, which is nice.
Yeah, I hear you. My wife's family is from around here. My family's
Mhm.
kinda spread out, and we've always been way closer to my wife's family, so it's
Yeah,
for us, it's kind
same.
of a no-brainer. But, if I were working remote and I could work anywhere to do that, I'm thinking, US Virgin Islands, pretty cheap, good
Oh,
weather,
okay,
good internet,
interesting.
or something like that, just kind of thinking crazy. I was asking my wife that, "Hey, do you wanna go move someplace else? Because we don't have to be here." But she's kinda my oldest is, I'm sorry, my youngest is gonna be going to University of British Columbia. I'm kinda wearing a UBC shirt here,
No, there you go.
starting her PhD in the fall, and so we're gonna wait for
Ooh,
her to figure that out. My oldest is in Redmond working for Nintendo, so she'll always
oh,
kinda be there, and,
yeah.
so this is kinda where we gotta be, but like, I think it'd be fun, like, I just saw a job opening in, New Zealand. I'm thinking, let's go do that for a couple years, wouldn't that be
I
fun?
would kind of love to
You
live in New
know?
Zealand, right?
Yeah,
That place is gorgeous.
so,
I've never been, but that's one of those. I haven't traveled a ton, unfortunately, which is something I really nowadays really even tougher. But something
yeah.
I have to rectify in the next 10 years.
Mhm,
I gotta
mhm.
go off of this continent at least once in my life.
Yes. Yeah, I've done some traveling when I was younger, and I haven't been to New Zealand. I've been to Australia out there,
Mm,
and I
nice.
it's just nice. It's just kinda cool, especially you can do the seasonal thing. So you go there during our crummy weather, and it's their nice weather and vice versa.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you have any connection to family in the States, it's a long flight. It's
Oh,
the
sure.
big
Yeah.
drawback, and that's why my
Yeah.
wife wasn't keen on going as yet. So if I kept it closer, so that's what I'm thinking. U.S. Virgin
Mm,
Islands, could do that. Where else is really close that would be nice and cheap? Hawaii is okay, but Hawaii's really expensive.
yeah. I kind of
You
figured.
know, so not really keen on that. And I don't like. I don't know. Weather's another thing. I like to have nicer winters than we have here. All the rain and grayness, I don't like so much.
Okay. By nicer, do you mean like slightly warmer
Either
winters,
warmer
or this?
or less rainy, just less
Mm,
rainy.
fair enough, but
Yeah.
not. You don't want to go snow. You don't want to go full snow.
Not necessarily. My daughter went to school in Calgary, and they had
Mm.
really sunny, super cold winters, where it was routinely 20
Hmm.
below. Not a fan. Not a
Yeah, I
fan.
don't. I'm
Yeah.
well. I'm more of a fan of the cold than I am of the heat.
Yeah.
So I probably would like that.
I I went to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and those winters were doable.
Mm.
Just the really, really cold sub-zero. I worked in Antarctica. I don't
Ooh.
need to go and, you know,
Okay. I wouldn't go that far. Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Personally, I kind of like the winters here in the Pacific Northwest because
Yeah.
it's not. I do miss the snow,
Yes.
but we've been getting a little bit of that here and there. But just I don't mind the rain. Honestly,
Well, it's the grayness though, the gray. That's the kind of the gray rain.
yeah,
It could be worse, and I've been in a lot worse
sure,
places.
sure,
You
sure.
know, again, just thinking, if you could find the ideal and go back and forth, something like.
Hmm.
Well,
Once
anyway,
they
well,
develop that teleporter
yeah,
technology, that'll be real good.
or even super trains. Come on, man,
Yeah, I
Japan's had
mean,
them
yeah,
forever. You
super
know,
trains across the country, and I could go back to the East Coast in a couple hours. That
ten
would be pretty
hours,
cool.
10 hours, coast to coast. How would that?
Yeah,
How good would that be? You know?
it'd be better because I don't like flying. I mean, I don't mind flying. I just
Yeah,
think it's bad. I think the way we do it is bad. I guess is how I would put it.
yeah, yeah.
Airports are
Well,
bad, and plane companies are bad, and so I would much rather drive or sit on a train where I can get up and walk around more
right.
than on an airplane. Well, this
Well,
has
I've
been
driven.
travel
Yeah,
corner, travel times. Hmm.
yeah. Well, we could talk a lot more travel in the future if you
We
want.
surely
I've
could. We
done
sure
quite a
could.
bit. But I do think it's good that, unlike Wizards, Renegade will let you keep doing our podcast.
Yes, until they
So,
tell me to stop, I guess, but I don't think they
wait.
will.
Okay.
No, I don't
Well,
think they will. No, that was mostly a joke.
okay. I was going to say,
I don't think. Yeah,
I do have somebody else that I could get pulling in here, I think, but I wasn't ready to
I
do that
know.
yet. Okay. All right. No,
No, no,
I
no,
want
no,
to
no,
keep you
no.
around.
I want to stay around. I want to talk more about this game
All right. All right.
instead
Well,
of talking about myself, which is what we've been doing mostly the past couple episodes. So thank you all
I
for
know, getting to know you, and
getting
now,
to know each
this
other. Yeah,
whole change and stuff.
I
Well,
know.
Jason, I promise we'll get into more Starfindery stuff. We'll
Let's do it.
focus on that coming in the future. I think we've laid the groundwork here for a couple episodes. So that's
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
At some point, I would love to. I don't know, kind of like I know Redshift Rally, the module should be coming out soon if it isn't out already, and I would love to talk about that
Okay.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I have not. I want to adjust my subscription so I can automatically get the digital ones,
Mm,
but it's not. You got to like call them up, and you got to do something weird to change things around. And I'm already getting a lot
yeah,
of stuff on subscription, so I don't want to like just add, but I have
yeah,
to
yeah,
figure out
yeah.
what to drop out. I don't know. So, but yes, for sure, we should do that. It'll be fun. All
Sure thing.
right, but let's wrap it up now. So
Sure thing.
I'm John.
And I'm Jason, and this has been Digital Divination.